the first thing that I thought of when I saw Browt on the announcement video was a combination of the Duolingo bird and an Angry Bird from the game Angry Birds. So like it's just got that, that perfectly round face of like the Angry Bird, but then he's kind of got the face and demeanor of the Duolingo bird. If you can picture that, you know exactly what Browt looks like, and he's got two leaves for his angry unibrow.
All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 7. We just wrapped up Pokemon Day this past Friday, February 27th at 9 a.m. Eastern. There's a lot of updates here that we got, a lot of quality of life improvements, a lot of subtle improvements to things that were already in the ecosystem. And then they got a big announcement that we'll talk about later with a new title coming in 2027. So definitely stay tuned for that. We're going to basically do this episode as a breakdown of the things that we want to talk about from the release. And then we'll have some honorable mentions as well during the latter half of the podcast. But Gavin, before we jump into this podcast today, figured we'd actually take a little side step from Pokemon really quick and just talk a little bit about the things that are going on in our own worlds that are not necessarily related to gaming, but also, maybe adjacent in the media, that we're doing individually. So I'll actually give you the opportunity first. I know you're just finished up a TV series. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, just finished last night watching season 4 of The Traders. It's a fun it's gaming related because it's it's kind of like Among Us, but for those of you that haven't seen it, it's like Among Us but with real people, and it's mostly like reality TV celebrities like your Real Housewives, your Big Brother, Survivor, Love Island. There's some comedians, some actors and stuff like that on there. And it's just a fun show because you just see these people slowly kind of go insane because obviously there's traders and faithful. The traders' goal is to kill all of the faithful people and make it to the end. So then if there's any traders at the end, they get all the money. If only faithful are left at the end, they split however much money is left and they do missions every day to earn money. And it's fun because it's so funny to watch because like someone will be at breakfast and they'll drop a fork like unexpectedly and they're like, "Oh, Dylan's a traitor. He dropped his fork. Explain yourself." Like, I just dropped a fork, man. Like, I don't know what's happening.
Got slippery fingers here, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's like. I wasn't like, so like it's so funny because you see these people just hyper analyze and like look for a small crumb of any reason to like think that you're not faithful at all, and then sometimes people just implode. It's great TV. I highly suggest watching it. It is on NBC/Peacock for those of you wanting to watch, and definitely start with season 1. Work your way through. You got 4 seasons to catch up on. How about you, Dylan?
Yeah, we just wrapped up a theme park vacation that we took in Orlando, Florida. We did Epic Universe, which is one of the brand new parks for Universal Studios, which I'll talk about that a little bit here because there's a lot of gaming adjacent things that are at that park that are pretty cool. And then we also went to Disney down in Orlando. We went to all 4 of the parks, had a great experience. Not the best weather, which I can talk about later. It was actually really cold in Florida, which was stupid. But talking about Epic Universe first, you haven't been to the new park quite yet, have you, Gavin? No?
I haven't been to Universal since I was like 10 or something, so it's been some years.
Yeah. I would say like the older Universal parks, they're fine. They just have had a lot of updates to them outside of like Velocicoaster and some Harry Potter stuff, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. But Epic Universe is really their brand new project. According to some locals that we talked to down in Florida, Universal had bought up a lot of land in this certain part of Florida, and they're planning to expand Epic Universe significantly. Right now, they have 4 worlds. One of them is Dark Universe, which is kind of like your classic horror monsters like Frankenstein, like werewolves, and there's actually a ride called Monsters Unchained that showcases a lot of the classic monsters, so it's pretty cool. You can always look up things on YouTube too to just get like a live look at what that ride actually looks like. We rode it a couple times when we were there. And then there's another portal for Super Nintendo World, which is really cool. Obviously adjacent to gaming in the sense of there was a fully engrossing experience of the Mario world with the question mark buttons. You could buy a power up band, I believe is what they called it, and you could like make the noises, which is kind of cool and nostalgic for us probably, especially you, Gavin, since you love Mario.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was also a Donkey Kong world that was behind the opening area of Mario, which was really cool. They have
Hmm.
a ride called Minecart, Donkey Kong Minecart something or other. Probably one of my
Mm.
favorite rides for the
I want to
day.
try that one.
It's really cool, especially with the animatronics. They're like next level. Universal definitely didn't skimp anything on budget wise. Like it's very, very cool what they did there. Very cool at night too. If you get a chance to go, definitely go at night because everything's lit up and everything like that. So that's the other world that we got to experience. They had a Mario Kart ride, which was pretty neat there too. I've got videos on my phone I could share as well. But just very cool to see like the things that we grew up with, like seeing it come to life, like with like the shells and like the bombs and like all the different things. It was just really, really neat to see. The other two worlds, one was for our How to Train Your Dragon fans, which actually was really cool. They had the Isle of Berk basically in one of the worlds, and they actually had a really nice ride, Hiccup's Wing Gliders, I believe it's called. It's a roller coaster, super fun. We actually rode it a couple times too. So definitely recommend that if you guys go. And then the last world that we got to experience was, and actually we started in this world, was the Harry Potter stuff, which for the fans of the newer series, which I'm not necessarily a huge fan of, like the Fantastic Beasts, they have basically I want to say it's like Parisian version of the Wizarding World. And so they have a show called Cirque d'Arcanu. I think I'm saying that correctly. Very, very cool. Definitely watch if you go. I mean, I'm not big on going to shows when you go to amusement parks, but that was well worth it. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, you'll love that. And then we did the Battle at the Ministry ride, which is so cool. Like it makes sitting in a queue for an hour for a ride actually well worth it because you get to see like this entire place. Like they basically built out the Ministry of Magic within this building, and basically the queue wraps around so that you can see all the different things. Like they have Umbridge's office in there with like the cats on the wall and stuff. They have basically the giant fountain area, or what was the fountain in the middle of the
Hmm.
Ministry in there. So it's just like a super cool thing, especially if you're a fan like me, you'll love it. So that was
Yeah.
Universal. Definitely recommend going. It is expensive though, just as a, quick sidebar, but I would go for a day and do the express pass if you can do it, because you can get through all the rides that you want to with that express pass. And then Orlando for Disney was well worth it too. And we did a park hopper pass for everything. Got to see Star Wars stuff. Got to see some of the older stuff that you and I grew up with like
Yeah.
I had Snow White and all these other things. So had a great time. And I definitely
Yeah.
highly recommend for the folks that haven't been down to Disney or Universal in the past couple of years, definitely put it on your list because it was well
Yeah.
worth going.
So, quick question. You said, did you have the express pass when you went?
I did. Yeah.
And it was still an hour-long ride or wait
Uh,
for that
Good
ministry ride, or
question.
was that exempt from the express pass?
Good question. It does have its own express lane. And when we rode it the first time, we did go through the express pass lane. And so later in the day, we wanted to ride it right before we left, or right before like dinner time or whatever. So we rode it through with the regular queue too. Because the
Uh,
interesting thing about
okay.
Universal is like the express lane is obviously shorter, but it kind of goes through a different area than you would in the general queue. So we went through the general queue, obviously to ride it again, but then we got to see the other stuff that a lot of people,
Gotcha.
let's say normies would see in a
Yeah.
waiting queue, and it was still worth it. So,
Also, while you're talking about that, I thought I had remembered hearing something, and I looked it up. And Pokemon Company is actually partnering with Universal Studios
ooh,
in
okay.
2026 to bring a Pokemon Universal Studios to like a Pokemon Land to Universal Studios Japan. And
Mm,
I would this is maybe me being hopeful, but I'd like to think that if it's as successful as it should be, maybe they'll bring it to Orlando, and then,
then we could go.
we'll be, yeah, dude, I would love that. I'd be like transform me back to 10-year-old version of me, and I'd be running around having a blast.
Oh yeah, for
I'd
sure. And I'm sure
probably
they would
have to
have
be put
something
on one of those
interactive too,
leashes. Yeah, I'd probably have to be on one of those leashes because I'd just be running
running
around like a
everywhere.
chicken with my head cut off. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That there's definitely places to expand for Universal, as they mentioned to us when we were down there. They only have the four worlds right now, so it's relatively small. That's why I say like if you only have a day, you can definitely get around as long as you have the express pass. But yeah, it was a very cool experience.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So let's jump into some Pokemon Day updates. So, couple things here. We'll actually start with the first thing being the gaming music collection. This is just like a small little fun thing that they announced during the live stream. So I'll go ahead and share my screen for the folks that are tuning in with
Yeah.
us on YouTube, so that we could see this. But I'm gonna go ahead and
Yeah,
share.
it was like a cool little appetizer to like warm you up for the rest of the Pokemon Direct. It was yeah, it was pretty cool.
Exactly. And again, those that are just tuning in on the podcast, basically what it is, it's like a miniature Game Boy that has different card slots that have different music attached to them. So they basically have 45 different cards, 45 different designs on the cards, I guess, or the cartridges is what they're calling it. And so basically
Hmm.
you plug in the cartridge to this little Game Boy and then it plays the nostalgic music from the Gen 1 series. So
Yeah.
pretty cool. I
It's
don't know
all of
that's
the
necessary, but yeah.
yeah, I mean it's kind of like it's one of those things they pull out for the 30th anniversary. It's all 45 songs from the original two Pokemon games. So I think that's like they're feeding into that like oh 30th anniversary, let's do something cool to honor the original game. So why not make a original Game Boy looking cartridge or like player with the different cartridges. As cool as that is, I kind of wish it was just like a Game Boy and like you didn't have to switch out the cartridges. You could just cycle through
Right.
them. A
Right.
little nitpicky here. I probably won't be purchasing it. I thought it was cool though. It is a cool idea, and I mean, I can still play that music, like think about the music, and I can hear it in my head right now. It's
Mhm.
such iconic, like good music considering the capabilities of the technology at the time. Like the guy who composed all the music had to do some like kind of cool things to make it sound like not just like beeps and boops.
Yeah, I would agree, Gavin. I think with the cartridge thing, it's a cool and like novel idea, and I think a lot of collectors that are big into the Gen 1 Pokemon will love it. I guess for me, and you kind of alluded to this, is I don't think I will be purchasing it just because it's again a novelty thing. Just a sidebar too on this. Do you remember when McDonald's had like those little toys where you would basically get like audio players and like little chips that you would put into
Mhm.
them? That's what this reminds me of.
The little
And I
juke
think
jams, I think is what they're called, like
I
juke
think
jams or something like
so.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it reminds me of because I think back in the day when we were growing up, it was like Backstreet Boys. I think I had one, but that's just a sidebar. It just made me
Yeah.
think of that.
I mean, that's kind
But
of what
again,
it
I don't think
is.
I would. Yeah, I don't think I would necessarily gravitate towards buying this, but it is a cool idea. So
Yeah.
the next thing that they talked about was actually Pokemon World Championships. So, just a quick high level here, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for the folks joining us on YouTube. It's going to be August 28th through the 30th, and it's actually going to be posted or hosted, I should say, in San Francisco. So, the cool thing here that they announced is that this is actually going to be two different types of events. There's going to be the World Championships, which is obviously the competitive nature of Pokemon, but then there's also the side expo that they're going to be doing for just Pokemon enthusiasts, which I thought was pretty cool. So you don't have to be competitive in nature or care about the competitive side of Pokemon. You can just go there and be a true fan, which is pretty cool. So I guess, Gavin, any thoughts on this? I know you're a little bit more into competitive gaming. Any initial thoughts on this and how exciting it might be for you personally?
Yeah, I think it's super fun. It'll like kind of like you said, it takes more of the just competitive aspect out of it because I mean, the World Championships is a combination of the of Pokemon Go, Pokemon Unite, the trading card game, and the flagship game itself. They each have their own respective World Championships that take place over a couple days during that weekend, and it's always well attended, but it's always by like people. A lot of times, it's like people that are more focused on those scenes individually. So it'll be interesting to see how the turnout happens with it being like its own con. Like it almost seems like they're trying to turn it into like a Comic Con specifically for Pokemon, which is cool. My hope with this is that they're going to turn it into some sort of breeding ground for like innovation and play testing for future projects. Like a little bit of a hope and wish here is that they're going to have some early testing with the new games, which we'll get into here in a little bit, the Winds and Waves. Have those available, maybe not even to everybody, but have them available to some people to play test and kind of like get some bugs and kinks knocked out of it to like make it a more finished product. And then also it gives them a platform to make further announcements aside from Pokemon Day. So I think it'll be, I mean, San Francisco's a little far for me personally. I do wish they could do it like Indianapolis, selfishly, because we've got a big convention center for it. I think, maybe a future
Gen
event could
Cost,
be held. Yeah, we host Gen Con. We
Gen
have our
Con's
own
here.
Comic Con. Yeah, so we
Hmm.
have the facilities for it, but maybe one day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe in the future,
excited
and especially if
overall.
the Pokemon company's listening, yeah, keep us in mind for a future. But I do think just location wise, it does make a lot of sense for it to be in San Francisco because it's kind of a middle point between Japan and obviously the US, which is probably their primary markets, if I had to guess. And so I think depending on how successful this event is and how often they want to run it, I think we could see some future success come here. But yeah, I agree, Gavin. I think this one specifically, for them to do it right, they have to bring something special to the table that Gen Con and Comic Con aren't already doing, something unique that makes them stand out.
Yeah.
So, but looks pretty exciting.
Yeah, and
Um,
I also think that they'll move it around because I mean the World Championships typically moves around. Like one year it was in Hawaii, one year it was in Japan, and it was in Europe one year. Like they do typically move it around, so it's not always in the same
yeah,
spot. So maybe with this would be able to move, and that's something they just had San Francisco already on the books for this year, but we'll see.
yeah, for sure. Cool. Next thing that we wanted to talk about, or that they announced at Pokemon Day, was actually Pokemon Champions. So this is actually set to launch on Nintendo Switch in April 2026. Fans who download the game early should receive a Dragonite in their in-game mailbox, which is pretty exciting. As Gavin and I have mentioned in the past, Dragon type is usually one of the strongest types of Pokemon until they introduce the fairy type, of course. But this is a really exciting move for Pokemon because it's making competitive type Pokemon games a little bit more accessible. So obviously it's releasing to Nintendo Switch first, but the cool thing here is they're also considering moving this to mobile, or they are going to, just not at launch. And so it's going to make this accessible to not just the hardcore, I would say, competitive crowd, but also making it available to kind of like what you're seeing on your screen, those kids that might be wanting to get involved but don't know how, right? It just makes things a little bit more accessible for a broader community.
Yeah. This will be really cool. They announced with the previous announcement, they announced that the World Championships will be played on this game, which is a big change because up until that point, competitive slash World Champions game or World Championships were always played on whichever the current flagship main game was on. So, like example, Scarlet Violet, X and Y,
Right.
etc., etc. So this would be interesting. There was a lot of people leading up to Pokemon Day that were speculating that it was going to come out in April, so it's nice to finally have that confirmation that it will in fact come out in April, which is when the new regulation will drop for competitive, and the regulations itself is like the set of rules with which the competitive scene is guided by. So like a lot of times it's restricting what kind of Pokemon you can use or can use. Like example, the amount of legendary Pokemon you can have on any given team. I think if there's no restrictions, you'd have probably mostly legendary Pokemon. So usually it'll be some combination of one or two legendaries, and sometimes it even cuts it down even more to like you can only use Pokemon found from the like base game before DLCs with
Mm.
non-legendaries and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And so it'll be cool. They haven't announced what the new regulation is going to be yet, especially with it being on Pokemon Champions instead of being on Scarlet Violet. There's a chance that the Mega Evolution gimmick will be coming back, especially because Legends ZA introduced a lot of new Mega Evolutions. So it'll be an exciting time for the competitive Pokemon gaming scene when that comes out. And then with it being on mobile, it'll be fun. Pokemon Unite did a similar thing when it first released. It was only on Switch, and that's also an online competitive game. And then eventually brought it to mobile. That's like one of my good buddies. He always talked about how he wanted to play with us, but he just I don't know. he would always come up with excuses when it came to buying a Switch for whatever reason. And then once it was on mobile, he had no more excuses, so he could just play with us. It's a fun, free to play game. We'll probably talk about here in the honorable mention section for like stuff we're somewhat excited about. And but yeah, I'm excited for the Pokemon Champions overall.
Sure. Yeah. No, it looks awesome. I think this also helps bleed into Pokemon Unite because there was some updates here as well. So quick, just high level overview. They were bringing in the, I would say, legendary birds from the original series of Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. So they're going to be joining as playable Pokemon, basically. And so those are the newer additions. But I guess, Gavin, anything else, given that you've had a close tie to Pokemon Unite in the past, that you'd want to call out that
Yeah.
was announced during Pokemon Day?
Yeah, and I'm assuming you've never played.
I haven't.
Yeah, so basically what the best way to describe Pokemon Unite is it's a multi-online battle arena, or as a lot of the genres call it, it's a MOBA. They shorten it down to MOBA. Think of your League of Legends, your Smite, your Dota 2s. It's those overhead camera, 5 people on each team just battling it out to try to take a certain objective, and every game's kind of different because it's different characters and all that stuff. But it's like those with Pokemon. So it was fun. It was fun appeal. A bunch of my friends and I play occasionally. That we played from another game. We met each other playing League of Legends, but we play the Pokemon Unite. It's super exciting. It's always fun when they add new characters. So the whole thing with it is there's a limited roster because you can't have all 1,000 Pokemon in the game. So they've been slowly adding Pokemon in, and this will be exciting, especially with it being the original legendary trio of birds, some of the cooler ones. I'll be interested to see how good they are. I'm sure they'll be very strong. And then yeah, this should be fun. I'll probably play it a little bit once those guys finally drop.
That's awesome. Cool. Something that I'm actually personally excited about, they got a new video update, and that is Pokopia. For those not aware of what Pokopia is, the easiest way for me to explain it, and obviously the folks that are tuning into YouTube, you guys will see this live here. I'm pulling up my screen. But Pokopia is basically kind of like a sister to Animal Crossing in the sense that you're doing a lot of like town development, you're, growing crop, you're building things, etc. It's kind of like a cozy game, but Pokemon Pokopia also has a couple unique spins on that I'll kind of highlight here too. So the biggest thing for Pokopia is you are a Ditto and you are trying to, I think you lose your owner essentially. And so what the Ditto is doing is it's trying to make itself look like its owner. So at the start, you get to make your character basically as the Ditto. And then essentially, as you find Pokemon throughout the island, you can essentially inherit their powers like Ditto can in the game. So what you're seeing on your screen here is like Hitmonchan, I believe, is, the lady with lady or man that has the punching gloves, so she can knock out those blocks, and that's what the Ditto was doing. Also, that's Lapras. I'm sure that's going to be like a surfing thing or a water-based thing. There's also a component of Bulbasaur so that you can till the land and grow crops. So I just think this is a really unique spin for Animal Crossing, because Animal Crossing for me, I don't know about you, Gavin, but it's not necessarily like a good game for the type of games that I typically gravitate towards. But given that there's a lot of nostalgia here and a lot of unique properties to Pokopia, it draws me in a little bit more. But what about you, Gavin? Any thoughts here?
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's kind of like it fits that same sort of niche, fun aesthetic as like your Animal Crossing, your Stardew Valley, your there's another game. It's called Cozy Grove that came out a couple years ago. There's very similar vibes, but and then it even kind of feels like it's got a little bit of Minecraft in it with some of the blockiness and the building capabilities. I'm probably, I am going to be picking it up this week. It'll be tomorrow as far as when this
Hmm.
releases from podcast release date. And yeah, it just seems really fun. It's going to have online capabilities where you can go to other people's islands. And there's going to be that, I think we talked about this on the pre-show a little bit, but you'll have that prop hunt ability where you can go to other people's islands and you be the Ditto and you can transform into anything and hide and seek. That'll be fun because there's some YouTubers that I've watched that do that kind of stuff already in Pokemon Scarlet Violet. The one I can think of, his name's Purple Cliff. He usually gets his friends together and they get in Pokemon Scarlet Violet. They'll you can do like the 4-player co-op in one of the DLC areas, and you throw out a Pokemon, and you'll throw out a Pokemon, and if you don't know, if you haven't played Scarlet Violet, the Pokemon are just out about running around, and so you run around and pretend that you're one of the wild Pokemon, and then the seeker has to come out and find you, and it's fun, and some hijinks ensue with that game in itself. But yeah, so that'll be fun that they're actually like kind of adding that kind of thing to the game without having to like, people just doing it. And so it's actually like a feature of the game. So it'll be fun. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, same here. Really quickly, I'm not to put you on the spot, Gavin, but is this just a Switch 2 exclusive? Like if you just wanted to play on your own?
It is. It is, unfortunately. I mean, it kind of makes sense at a certain point. They're going to stop making games for the Switch. And then
Yeah, it's been
also
out for some time.
it's been out for over a year. And then also, I think with what they like, at a certain point, if you want the games to be as good as they possibly can be, they have to stop making them for Switch as well, because they've kind of pushed that to its graphical limits in general. So as much as it is sad sad for some of the people that don't have a Switch 2 yet, but that'll give you a reason to get one, I guess, if you needed another one.
Right. Yeah. And it looks like and I'll actually do some research off this offline, but it does look like, Gavin, like if you bought it, you could console share it with me and I could play on my Switch. So we'll look into that. But
Yeah,
actually
that
looks like
is
it's a pretty
cool.
cool,
I didn't
cool
know
piece.
if
So
that's the case. I did not know that was possible.
yeah. Which I think is a smart move because I think to your point, Gavin, like Nintendo Switch 2 users, like right now, I would say we're in like the early adopters phase for this new console generation for Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make sense to kinda, like, bring the other people along, like, especially if you thought about, like, the everyday family, right? If they had, like, 2 kids, let's say, like, you're not gonna buy
Yeah.
2 Nintendo Switch 2s, like, that's
Yeah.
unreasonable. But if you had 1 Nintendo Switch regular and 1 Nintendo Switch 2, this makes it a little bit more accessible, you can play with friends, blah, blah, blah. So, I think this is really cool, and I like what they're doing so far. Cool. So, last thing here, last big announcement that came from the Pokemon Day announcements was actually what Gavin and I were most excited for, and I'm sure a lot of you were as well. And of course, they held out on us till the last minute here for us to see this, smartly, of course. But the Pokemon Winds and Waves got announced. So I'm going to pull this up just to have a backdrop for our conversation here. But these are going to be the 2 new mainline Pokemon games that are getting released. I will say, and Gavin, I think we talked about this in the pre-show. I think when I first saw like the first, let's say 30 seconds to a minute of this trailer, I was like, what are they talking about? Like, is this like a new Let's Go Pikachu game? Or like, is this like a new mobile thing? Like, I just didn't know, especially you guys will see this here in a bit, but like, it didn't make a lot of sense that this was like a brand new game for us.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of exciting things coming. So I guess, Gavin, any initial reactions there, like in the
Yeah.
first 30 to
With
a minute?
this
Did you feel the
yeah,
same?
I felt a similar thing, like, once I kinda realized what they were doing, because it's almost like they're turning the page on each generation, like, with the book and the paintings, so they're turning the generation to the new, and so at first I was thinking, "Oh, are they, like, doing a new style of game?" Because like, it kinda looks like they're doing some
Mhm.
gameplay, but then, like, it's like a real person's arm opening up a door to, like, a beach house. I'm like, "No way they're, like, waiting till the end of the video to do, like, some sort of new type of game," and then as the YouTube watchers can see here, we've got a vacation parent Pikachu's here with one dad and a mom where they're dressed up in like a vacation outfits and they look a little tan, to be honest. Like that, I don't think that's a regular Pikachu yellow there, and it just I was like, where's this going? And then it shows the Game Freak logo, so then everyone knows that it's a mainline Pokemon game, and then it starts showing these beautiful landscapes of like a Wailord breaching the water and spraying up, and like it just looks gorgeous. And then you see, just vivid landscapes, and then Pokemon in the wild environment, and the water looks incredible. Like it looks like that's the best any water's ever looked. You run through, see, it shows you running through like a molten cave, and there's some slugma on the ground that are like glowing, and like just as soon as I saw this, I kind of went in. I was like, maybe this will be on Switch. But as soon as I saw all this stuff, I was like, oh, there's no way. This game looks way too
Yeah,
pretty to be on only. It's gonna be only on the Switch too. And then we get
right.
into
And
the new Pokemon show. And it's new starters, and those are exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll give a quick rundown of each of the three. Obviously, you can tell based off the color what they are. Obviously, this is the grass starter, fire starter, and then the water starter. And so each of their names, just going right to left. This is Gecqua, this is Pombon, and this is Browt. Obviously, you can tell that's why he's got a unibrow. But Gavin, you actually had a funny way of explaining what Browt looks like. So I'll actually give you the
Yeah,
opportunity to explain for the folks that aren't able to see this visually and they're just listening to the podcast. Like, what does
yeah.
Browt technically look like?
So the first thing that I thought of when I saw Browt on the announcement video was a combination of the Duolingo bird and an Angry Bird from the game Angry Birds. So like it's just got that, that perfectly round face of like the Angry Bird, but then he's kind of got the face and demeanor of the Duolingo bird. If you can picture that, you know exactly what Browt looks like, and he's got two leaves for his angry unibrow.
Exactly. Yeah. He almost looks like a young chick, like young chicken. But yeah, to
Mhm.
Gavin's point, he did a good job of explaining it and what it visually looks like. Pombon is basically what you would expect. It's a Pomeranian dog. And I'm assuming the bon part is like a bonfire, so we'll see how they actually play into that. But he is basically just a orange Pomeranian. It's got little flames at the top of his head. It's just like a red, accent piece, but pretty cool. My personal favorite, and I think Gavin, you might agree with this, but Gecqua is probably the one that I would go with I will end up playing this eventually. But Gecqua is basically a gecko, and he's water based, and so he's got like a deep blue color, light blue eyelashes. He's got a little teardrop or water drop in the middle of his head. So very cool starters, and I'm interested to see too, like what their evolution will look like as well. Because typically they start cute and then they end up being a badass. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see
Yeah.
like that
Which
evolution and where they
my
go.
my one hope and plea with Game Freak, Pokemon Company, please do not turn Pombon into another Incineroar. Incineroar's cool. He's awesome, but we don't need another one. For those of you that don't know, back in Generation 8, the Alola region, Incineroar started off as a fire kitten, aka a Litten, is the name of him. He's this cute little cat. And then he evolves into a buff dude. He's just a big luchador, which is a cool concept, but we've done it. We don't need to do it again. Keep it a cute dog. Like you can be a badass and you can still be a big dog. Like for if you're able to look at this, watch this on YouTube right now. We've got it pulled up. Litten, cute, adorable little cat, and then it evolves into Torracat, still on all fours, still a cat. And then you finally evolve it. Boom, that's just a buff dude. Why did we have to become a
Yeah,
bipedal anthropomorphic Pokemon? Like we don't need that. Like I don't know. It just Incineroar is a cool Pokemon. All that stuff. I like him a lot, but we don't need another one. And that's my biggest fear is that Pombon is just going to be Incineroar 2 Electric Boogaloo, and it's going to be the dog version of Incineroar. Just leave him on all fours. Let him be a cool dog, like a big old Pomeranian. Like I don't know. I think that'd be cool. Just let it be the
yeah.
same, or not be the
No,
same.
I'm
Sorry.
with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I kind of play both schools of thought. Like I would love to see something different where they do keep like the cuteness of the starter form into the ultimate form that they go to. But I will say, Incineroar, I've never played this game, but he looks pretty cool. So like I kind of play both schools of thought. Like you almost want the evolution to be this badass that you grow up into. But I get what you're saying too,
That's
Gavin. Like
fine.
just do
I
something
just
different.
keep him as a not, or just don't turn him bipedal. Like let him stay on all fours. Like I don't know. And also from those of you that play the competitive game know how this is probably one of the strongest Pokemon they've ever made. It's like no
Really.
joke. Yeah. His ability
Well,
intimidate,
especially with the dark type.
yeah, the fire dark typing, his ability intimidate, his move set, he's literally one of the most staple, like most used Pokemon in all of competitive. As soon as he is allowed in a format, he is like instantly thrown into teams. And there's a real big YouTuber named Wolf Glick who's a former world champion, makes a lot of good YouTube videos, great content. If you're into that stuff, feel free to check him out. He's awesome, but he famously hates Incineroar because it's so strong and so OP. But then he uses it
Yeah.
himself, so
I mean, you have to play the game, right? So
yeah.
play those OP characters for sure. Cool. I guess the last thing I'll ask you, Gavin, we talked about this in the pre-show. There's obviously wins and there's waves. We don't know much about what's going to differentiate the two quite yet. Obviously, this is just like the start of this kind of hype cycle that they're building. But out of just the vibes that you were able to see, Gavin, which one would you pick?
I think my initial thought was waves. I don't know. There's something about the cowboy hat kind of like deterred me. I don't know. Not that I hate cowboys or anything, but it didn't feel with like match my vibe. And waves just feels cooler. And then real quick point on Gecqua. Gecqua's got the eye makeup that just absolutely slays. Like that's just some okay. Like that's got if that Pokemon doesn't end up like as a sassy like Gecko, I'll be like color me impressed that they decided to 180 that because that thing is gonna be a sassy queen of a Pokemon,
No, I love
guaranteed.
it.
Yeah,
Love it.
but yeah, I'm
Yes.
definitely leaning towards waves personally. So, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm personally feeling the same way. I don't know exactly, like we mentioned, what will be the differentiating factor, but I think waves likely will be more my vibe. If you guys listened to the last podcast episode, I kind of mentioned that water type is probably my all-time favorite starter, at least. And so I think waves will likely lead to maybe a legendary Pokemon being a water type or something similar. So that's kind of where my head's at, though.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the big thing for me is like I said, initial thought was waves. Once we get closer to release, which they say to 2027, I'm hoping it's early, hoping it's first quarter at this point. I think they did that to allow themselves the breathing room and ability to kind of have it come out and be good. But once it gets closer, they'll start releasing more and more of the Pokedex for the Pokemon, and they'll start getting into the version exclusives. Usually, they get data mined, which is a whole thing. But once those get found out, that's usually when I decide which game I want. That's when I decided when I went with Violet over Scarlet. And so that'll be my ultimate determining factor. I mean, you can always trade and get the Pokemon you want if you think about it,
True.
but it's
Yeah,
kind of how it's a way I help myself decide which one I want to get. But I'm excited for it. I wish it was coming out this year, but I don't want them to rush it out. And I'm hoping, like I said, when we talk about the Pokemon XP, the Fan Expo or whatever, hopefully maybe they'll be like, Let's let's have some
beta test.
playtesting there. Yeah, that would be awesome. Like, that'd almost be a reason to go. Not take away anything else. Like, if they have that, it'd be reason in and of itself to go.
For sure. For sure. Cool. Well, so some honorable mentions we'll mention before we kind of give our just initial, 360 view of the announcement of Pokemon Day, like what our initial reactions were. Just a couple things here that we'll cover. So they also announced Pokemon XD, Gale of Darkness. This was a classic Nintendo GameCube game. And so they're releasing that in March 2026. Obviously, that's this month, so it's coming soon. It's going to go to Nintendo Switch 2 system. And more specifically, it's going to be for Nintendo Switch Online and expansion pack subscribers. The other thing that they were going to highlight, or they did highlight during the announcement, was new enhancements or new missions for Pokemon Sleep, specifically for the Mew type Pokemon, or not type, but Mew Pokemon. If you guys are familiar with Mewtwo, obviously the first evolution of that, there's some new missions for that specific Pokemon. There's also Pokemon Cafe Remix. They're adding some more Pokemon and specific outfits as well. Gavin, you and I don't have any affiliation to Pokemon Sleep or Cafe Remix, right?
No, the only affiliation I have with Pokemon Sleep is that I go to sleep every night. Other than that, I have nothing.
Fair enough. Yeah, so let us know in the comments if you do and if this was like a cool announcement for you all. They also did make some updates to the trading card game specifically with Pocket, which is obviously the app version of the trading card game. So they're having some limited time missions and special rewards between February 27th, obviously on Pokemon Day, through June 26th. So if you have that app and you're an avid user, definitely go out there and do those limited time missions. And then also they had some updates to the Pokemon trading card game with just new sets of cards is basically how I was able to glean it from just like the announcement, but I'm sure they have some other press release things there too. The other thing that they talked about was some Pokemon Go updates. In a previous episode, Gavin and I had mentioned that Pokemon Go was like this huge cultural sensation that spun, whatever you say, generations from kids to adults to even, older adults, and was like a cultural phenomenon. It's actually the 10th anniversary of Pokemon Go, which is pretty cool. Makes me feel a little bit old, but that's okay. But they're making some updates there. So if you're still playing Pokemon Go, definitely do that. I think they said that there's going to be some like new community related enhancements. New Pokemon are going to come out to it, I believe, as well. So definitely check that out. And
Yeah.
then a couple other honorable
I was gonna
mentions.
say, do
Go
you
ahead, Gavin.
still
If
do
you
you
had
still
anything
play
specifically there,
Pokemon? Do you still play Pokemon Go at all?
I don't. Do you?
I don't. Funny enough, my girlfriend, who does not really play Pokemon, still plays Pokemon Go because a friend of hers still plays it, and they have these weekly missions that you can do in like groups. And yeah, so she loves
She needs help with those.
She got added to the group to help them with the group mission, and she doesn't want to leave a mission like undone. So she still plays because she keeps getting added to the weekly missions. And so it's just funny that like she plays. I don't play at all. I don't think I've opened the app. I still have it on my phone, but I don't think I've opened it in a couple of years. And she still plays. Like a couple weeks ago, we were going out and we had parked the car, and she pulled out her phone and was like catching the Pokemon in the area. So, but she doesn't play Pokemon at all. So it's funny that like it still kind of has that reach to people that don't play it. Like they don't play
Yeah.
like traditional Pokemon games.
Sure, yeah, like that, not the mainline ones. I think now that you mentioned that, I think my brother and sister-in-law still play it, so I'll have to give them the heads up that new things came out with Pokemon Day, because I feel like that's one thing that they truly bond over is Pokemon and Pokemon Go. So
Mm-hmm.
if you guys play at all, let us know if you're excited in the comments, or if you took away anything specific that we didn't mention during the podcast today. A couple other honorable mentions before we wrap up here. Pokemon Masters EX. There was some enhancements there. 3 exciting sync pairs are arriving soon for that game. So they're bringing back some classic favorites and showcasing recently discovered legendary Pokemon, which is pretty cool. Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green for Switch. We talked about that last episode. That was something that was well known, but they just emphasized on the announcement day. So that's cool that it's coming. Again, you guys know my feeling. If you listened to the last podcast, I don't think they should be charging $20 for a 2004 base game, but that's a sidebar. And then the last thing that they had was Pokemon Legends ZA Mega Dimension, which was a paid DLC. As Gavin had mentioned to me in the pre-show, this has already been released. It's just probably just highlighting it and saying like, hey, this is what we were doing for the 30th anniversary, just to kind of like add on to what they were already releasing with other updates here. So if you do play Legends ZA and you want some paid DLC, definitely jump into that.
Yeah.
But
And
Gavin, did you have any thoughts on the new DLC?
well, not on the deal. Well, I do have thoughts on the DLC, but first to like counter you a little bit, $20 isn't that much for a new for the Fire Red Leaf Green. I know it's like the third time a lot of people have probably purchased it, but it's only $20. Shout out Chip for yelling at me when I said
4
that.
coffees for that.
I'm just saying, it was brought to my attention by a listener that is $20 is really not that much. So shout out to Chip, and he not yelled at me, but he's like, you guys. He kind of called like not like called me out. But he's like, you guys both said that it's too much, but it's really not for like new players that have never played it. And I was like, you know what, you're kind of right. Like it's $20 is really not that much. I mean, it's cheaper than it was originally. So
that's fair.
It's not like it's not like they're charging the same price for that they originally charged. And then also on the DLC, it'll be interesting. It'll be cool. They're adding the new form of Mega Garchomp, which will be cool. Because the original it'd be Mega Garchomp Z, where the original one was just regular Mega Garchomp, and it took a beloved Pokemon that everyone liked and was pretty strong, and it made it bad. Like it changed its stats around in a weird way, and it made it like not it made it objectively just worse. It is just kind of crazy. So hopefully this one corrects for that and makes it better, or as good as a regular Garchomp, hopefully better. But I'm excited to see what happens with that. The DLC already did come out, so I don't know if this is talking about for like the second part of the DLC or if they're just adding on to more of it. So we'll see for that. But yeah, let's we're on to the overall impressions of the Pokemon Direct.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously that's what we were able to capture and in the announcement. So if there was anything we missed, feel free to comment below if we did. But that's kind of like a quick recap of things that we wanted to talk about at the front half, and then obviously some honorable mentions too, because we didn't have really a lot of affiliation to those latter updates. But yeah, I guess Gavin, what was your initial feedback like, and what is it now if it has all changed?
I think it's just excitement. I just anytime there's a Pokemon news where it's like exciting, it's the new game, like I just get super excited because I mean, it's been almost 4 years since Scarlet Violet came out, and it just the excitement is starting to build for the new game, starting to discover those new Pokemon, seeing what those starters turn into, exploring those areas for the first time, doing all that kind of stuff is just it's like it's building an excitement in me that I'm ready. Like I said a little bit ago, I don't want it to be 2027, but I want it to be good. So I'll just begrudgingly wait and hope it's January of next year. How about you?
Yeah, same here. I think I came into the Pokemon Day just expecting something huge and like being available today. Like that's kind of like what my expectation was. So I'd say like if my expectation was here, it left it being like down here, which is not necessarily a bad place. Like I am happy with overall like what the announcements are. I'm happy with wins and waves. I am excited at the direction that they're going. Obviously with the new starters, I love those little characters. I love the art direction. I love kind of like where they are going. But my theory here, we talked about this in the pre-show, is I think the Pokemon company has it in a ready enough state that they are starting to beta test and they're starting to roll it out to like their initial phase test users, and they're doing 2027 loosely, I might add. They don't have like a month or a day allocated to the release date quite yet. I think they're playing it conservative a little bit, and they're just saying like, "Hey, we're kind of ready. We have something. We just need, some initial testers to tell us what they think about this new
Yeah.
rendition, because there is a lot of weight behind it." And so my thought is, to Gavin's point, I hope it would be something early in 2027, but they're loosely saying 2027 in the event that they release it to these beta testers and they're like, "This isn't quite what we're looking for." They still have some time to go back without having like a big PR
Yeah.
nightmare of having
I
to go back on their release date.
And like we've talked about, I think we talked about it a little bit last week, and then also in the previous episodes where we talked when we did the year by year breakdown of consoles, so like a history of gaming type of thing. They don't really want to run into a I almost said Red Dead, but a cyberpunk situation. They don't want to run that cyberpunk situation. So I think that's kind of what they're doing. They had a little bit of that with Scarlet Violet. Like there was those the
Yeah.
game wasn't completely unplayable, but there were some serious issues that happened when it rolled out. So I think they're just trying to be I think while it didn't hurt the game in the long run, it kind of hurt it in the short term. So I think they're just trying to avoid that at all costs at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would agree. I think there's a lot of pressure for this to be good. And so I think they're
Mhm.
trying to their best to make sure that this is right by them and their standards. So I think that's good. Cool. Well, that's been our show and the recap of Pokemon Day. Overall, I think both Gavin and I left excited, but kind of yearning for more. Hopefully, I'm not speaking on your behalf, Gavin, but I'm
No.
excited to see what else they're going to come with. But yeah, definitely let us know in the comments what you guys think. What was your favorite thing that was released on Pokemon Day? Like things that we learned about that were net new. If there's anything specific like Pokemon Go updates or Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness that you guys are going to be jumping into because of some of the things that were announced during Pokemon Day, definitely let us know that too. We definitely want to hear from you. And also, just maybe a fun one, what would you pick as your starter for Waves and
Mm.
Wins once it does come out?
Yeah.
Probably Gavin and I are both going to be Gecqua fans here, but we'll be interested to hear as well what you guys think in the comments below.
Yeah, for sure.
And just a quick,
Getting those comments, let us know which one you're thinking of, you know.
exactly. We want to hear from you. Cool.
Yeah, get
Good.
into the video game book club, you know. We're end of the
Yes.
it's the end of the month, start of the new month. So let's do a quick review of the game that we decided on the video game book club, The Escape Ever After. I have about 20 hours in. I think I'm ready for the final boss. I I loved it. It was a great game. Uh Heavily inspired and by my one of my favorite games of all time, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. It's awesome game. Definitely art and gameplay style in inspired by that. And yeah, you're running around as a character from a not so it's a children's story that's not, one of the it's like a fictional children's story that and you run around and you get to meet all of the characters from all of the, fables, fairy tales, all that kind of stuff. Like you get to meet the three little pigs, you get to meet the big bad wolf, Pinocchio, Mother Goose, all sorts of stuff. And it's very fun. And I liked it a lot. It was a good breath of fresh air kind of from like this kind of like game.
The
And
serious
it was
games.
yeah, serious games. And it definitely you could definitely tell it was a passion project. It was like the people that made this game were very like, it was definitely a labor of love for sure. Dylan, I know this isn't typically your cup of tea on the style of video game, but what were your thoughts on it as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. I was telling Gavin this offline. I want to love this game because there's so many good things about it. With the art direction, as Gavin mentioned, the underlying story is really awesome. How they interweave other, telltales from our childhood, and also just the through line of like how characters interact and like all the play style and stuff. I'm just not a big turn-based RPG fan. As you guys probably know, if you guys have listened to other episodes, that's just my own style. I don't gravitate towards that, but I did stick with it for quite some time. I think I want to say I spend like 4 hours with this game. Spent 4 hours with this game.
It's pretty good.
And I
That's pretty
definitely
good for you
want
not liking the game, yeah. Or not liking that style of
exactly.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right. Right. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend it for anybody that's a turn-based RPG fan and likes cartoon-based games. Like it does do a good melding of the two. Just wasn't necessarily for me from a gameplay perspective, but definitely still would recommend it. It's got overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, so obviously the community is loving it. So excited to hear what you guys think in the comments if you guys did jump in, and what your thoughts were.
yeah. The next installment for the book club is going to be it's called Duck Detective. It's going to be the two titles from that series because they're both short games. You've got the Duck Detective, The Secret Salami is the first one, where you're a gumshoes duck detective, as the name implies. The classic old, mystery story where you're a detective, you're down on your luck. I believe your wife has left you, you just got to solve this one case and everything will be back again. And you get hired by this bus company, and someone has stolen a salami. Like it's goofy, it's fun. It's basically, you're running around, it's all animals are the characters, they're all bad puns and just that perfect meld of bad puns and cute gameplays. It kind of looks like you're like a little sticker running around in a sticker book. That's the first one. The second one is the Duck Detective, the Ghost of Glamping, and it's the sequel. Basically, you're being hired to come investigate this campground that has people think is haunted, and you're trying to figure out what's going on with that, and like, what is it truly haunted, or is someone doing some nefarious things? And the thing I have full disclosure, I have played these games already, but I thought it would be fun to get the listeners and Dylan to play these games. It'd be a good like a palate cleanser type of game where it's a short game. You can play through it in one sitting. It's about 80 minutes, 80 to 90 minutes total to finish the game. They're $10 or less, so they're cheap, on the cheaper end. As if you're watching along with us, it basically gives you these. You got you open your clue book up and it tells you what you're supposed to be trying to figure out, and it has fill in the blanks. When you fill in the blanks and check your answer, if it's correct, it gives you a real satisfying stamp that you've solved it. And then it does like, the mystery wrap up where you kind of get in the area and all that kind of fun stuff. And it's just, yeah, it's a fun, cutesy game. What are your thoughts on this, Dylan?
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to play this because, as we mentioned in past episodes, there is a plethora of games out there that take 40, 50, 60 hours to beat the mainline story. Gavin and I don't do this for our full-time job. If we ever got to the point, that would be fantastic, and we would definitely lean into those longer
Yeah.
playing games. But some of those games are fantastic, but they take forever, and it takes multiple weeks to beat them. And I think sometimes, at least for me, that takes me out of the immersion nature of these games. And so I think for this one specifically, being that it's, let's say 90 minutes on average, I think that's very easy to just sit down, play through, get the entire experience end to end. and just enjoy it. And as Gavin
Yeah.
mentioned, it's a good palate cleanser because there's so many games in the ecosystem right now that are taking so long to play. And I think this will just be a great little refresher. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to play it and see
And
what it's got to offer.
And when that was kind of my idea with the whole book club thing is the whole point of it is supposed to be like these like, less known about, people less known about games that like are fun, not as mainstream, like wanted to bring attention to them and get them going and get some love on them, maybe, figure it out. And this is a perfect game for that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say too, if there's any hesitancy, I know one of the things that I always look for, and I think Steam does a good job of this, is the recent reviews, and the English reviews always are like a telltale sign for me because I think the Steam community does a very good job of not inflating reviews, which you might find in other places like Google Maps has like inflated reviews. You never can really trust those, and also some other sites. So with Steam saying it's very positive and also recent English reviews being overwhelmingly positive, I think this is going to be great. And I'm excited to jump in.
Yeah.
Cool,
It'll be fun to
awesome.
it'll be fun to jump back into that for me, and then here at the end of next month we'll check in and see what we're thinking.
Yep, exactly. Cool. Well, let's do a quick look forward to next episode. So again, we thank you guys for tuning into this episode with us and talking Pokemon. Again, keep us posted in the comments on what you found most, let's say, attractive or exciting about the Pokemon Day announcement. But the next episode we're going to do is more of a look back on 2025, and the games that we feel like deserve a little bit of extra attention and some extra sun time. We did talk about our favorite games of 2025, like the top two, but there are still a lot that were, honorable mentions that definitely deserve some extra time. So definitely look forward to that. And we'll also be posting some look forward episodes as well about what we are most excited about with 2026 as well. Gavin, any final thoughts for the viewers at home before we close out?
No, just thanks for staying with us and listening. Definitely get in the comments, let us know which starter you're thinking, your likes, dislikes, indifferences towards Pokemon Day. It was super fun to do this episode. It's been fun to educate Dylan a little bit more on Pokemon since he's an OG, but we're getting him back in. It's been super fun. Thanks for listening along, and hopefully you continue to listen with us.
Excellent. Yep. Thanks, guys. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yep. See ya.